graduated with a degree in anthropology, so a liberal arts degree. I was looking for my journey, what I wanted to do there. I studied abroad in Vietnam. That's why I asked about it earlier, Lee. But
Well, hold on, you studied anthropology and studied abroad in Vietnam?
I did.
I studied anthropology and studied abroad in Vietnam.
What?
I actually didn't even know that. That's weird. I should have done my research, but I'm glad it's coming up now. Welcome to Educative Sessions. My name is Lee Ngo. This show is brought to you by Educative. Educative makes it easy for authors to provide interactive and adaptive courses for software developers. And Educative Sessions is a podcast series with people in the developer world about their coding experiences. Today, I'm talking with Cameron Buckingham of Deloitte, who is going to talk a lot about stepping away from the world of community building and just taking a break. And we're just going to take it from there. Cameron, welcome to the show.
Hey, Lee, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a very personal one for me because Cameron and I have kind of been through the trenches together in the world of evangelism. And around the time I got my first job was not too long before Cam got his first job. And so we're going to get very personal. Excuse us for anybody who's watching, listening now. This is going to be like one of those talks. So, let's take it back to you and I. I'm not sure, trying to remember exactly when you and I met. I believe it was 2015, or when did you officially start with Galvanize?
2015, you're right.
2015, yeah. I think I started in that August, and I remember there was always these like internal conversations of when is Cam going to be part of the team? When is Cam going to be part of the team? Yeah. And I was already so hyped up, and I don't like it when people hype people up to me, my expectations were exceeded when I met you. And, and I think the one thing there are so many things, of course, that I remember about you, but the one thing that stood out was that you were in the middle of a very rigorous project at the time, right? Like code every day, or I forget what exactly it was called, but let's start there in terms of the kind of things you were doing back in 2015.
Sure, 2015, I worked with Lee. It was a thrill ride all together. And I was doing an evangelist role. I was coming off of a programming role out in Phoenix, Arizona, and me and my wife were getting married. And she lives in Austin. We knew that we wanted to end up in Austin. So I was looking for jobs in the Austin area, and lo and behold, Galvanize was opening up a location in Austin. And so it made like a really good fit. And I already was plugged into the community there a little bit for developers, and I was already sort of in the funnel for that job. So yeah, I'm glad that you got some information about me before I came. But I was excited to change gears from a developer role and do more of a tech sales role.
And you were part of one of the earliest cohorts of Galvanize in the heyday, right?
Yeah, Galvanize. So let's back it up a little bit. I graduated in a long time ago. I won't give the time because they'll age me. Yep. But I graduated with a degree in anthropology, so a liberal arts degree. I was looking for my journey, what I wanted to do there. I studied abroad in Vietnam. That's why I asked about it earlier, Lee. But
well, hold on, you studied anthropology and studied abroad in Vietnam?
I did.
I studied anthropology and studied abroad in Vietnam.
What?
I actually didn't even know that. That's weird. I should have done my research, but I'm glad it's coming up now in live.
Yeah, okay. I asked
because
we spent most of our program in Dong Thap, which is a small region outside, a small town really outside of Saigon, and then spent a large portion in Hue. But it's a beautiful country, and I love that country. Memories I'll never forget. The people are amazing. So, but yeah, I didn't have. We'll circle back to our shared experiences there, but yes, I didn't with the liberal arts degree, I didn't have sort of the momentum of having and earning a position that was more technical. Coding was never a hobby for me. Gaming was not really a hobby. So those archetypes don't really fit into where I was. I was more of like I guess I'll call it a bro. Like I was just a guy that was like a student athlete in college with an anthropology degree, looking to travel a lot and have a lot of good experiences. So I kind of developed my soft skills and my personality early on for that. And so what I've brought into the technical world now, being 7 years as a developer now, is a different personality than the average developer that is a little bit quiet, a little bit more soft-spoken, a little bit more introspective. So me, I'm a little bit louder, and so I carry that personality into the job. But so yeah, I wanted to with a liberal arts degree. Then I went to Galvanize after about 4 years out in the job market trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I went to Galvanize as G3, the third class, inaugural class. And it was a lot of fun. Denver location, really fun, change of pace because I had lived in DC my whole life. So I moved out to Denver, started dating my wife at that time. And just had a ball. Like those times of learning, advanced learning, like truncated learning and going back to school was a really good fit for me. And got my first job out of there as a Java programmer, moved out to Arizona, and then ultimately wanted to end up in Austin. So that's how I ended up in 2015 in Austin. And to circle back to your first question, I was doing streaking at the time. Not the way that you would expect, but it's a self-proclaimed thing that I sort of made up, but it's doing something for 365 days straight. And I started doing that in 2015, where I committed to a goal of say, I want to do something every day for no more than 10 minutes long, just to get fully entrenched into it and learn things along the way and make that commitment now. I'm very goal oriented, so it worked out perfectly for me. So I started blogging in 2015 about this 365-day coding streak that I was doing, and that's all on GitHub. And I went through maybe 11 or 12 different languages, learned different functions and how to write the newest languages, even how to write some really old ones, because that was what I wanted to figure out. And I picked up some side projects along the way to go forward with, whether it's creating an application, hosting it on Docker, or doing some infrastructure DevOps builds that I was always interested in. So it helped me carry into different year-long streaks that I ended up committing to after 2015. Was like a reading streak, a working out every day streak. I remember I was so proud when I learned that Lee committed to a streak of doing drawing for 365 days. That really...
You should be proud, because that was completely inspired by you. It was a drawing and writing thing, and it exists out there, and it's hard.
Oh yeah.
It's so hard to commit to something that is actually very unnatural. Like coding, I could not even, I mean, I would cheat, like if I were to do a coding challenge and just like push the GitHub and just like let it be like, and just keep that, keep the wall the green. And I remember that was the visual that a lot of people like would look to start this conversation, is this wall of commits and wall of pushes that you would make to your GitHub accounts. I mean, I just think this is so awesome. And at the same time, I remember I was so eager to stop the streak when I was getting near the end of it, because, and I was constantly cheating. Like I was publishing posts like on scheduled days so that I wouldn't have to write every day. I would just write a lot on the weekend and then split up a story or whatever. And I mean, I was open about that, but like some people were still like, oh wow, he's got so many things to share. I'm like,
yeah, well, the attention span of the average consumer of news nowadays is they don't do that much digging into the the what's happening in the background. But think of it, I thought of it was great for me at the beginning for the developer one, because I was coding every day. A lot of professionals, as we know, push code every day, but it's to private repositories. It's not open source. It's not it's their personal projects.
Right.
So I feel like it was cool to document it and to blog about it and to go through the rigmarole, but a lot of people are out there doing that already. So all I did was wanted to create that brand and wanted to create that vision of who I was going to be going into Austin. I wanted to be a subject matter expert. I wanted to start meetup groups. I wanted to get developers excited about learning how to code. So I used that as a catalyst. And so in 2017, I got accepted on a panel picker for South by Southwest, and I got to speak about streaking and what that meant for me. And again, not the streaking that
we've clarified, but I'll still make the face. So
I should just make that.
I will put a caption just saying asterisk, not what you think it is, right? Yeah.
Asterisk. Yeah, that's perfect. But it gave me a good launching point, and I was very involved in the community. And this is sort of like what the talk that I wanted to pursue on this, because I love to talk about a journey, whether it be someone else's journey, whether it be the journey that I got to see from an outside perspective, or even, God forbid, my own journey where I have to introspectively think about how I got here and what's happening. And so for me, after leaving Galvanize, I went into a full-time developer role. And so there was very limited connectivity with the community. Timing wise, me and my wife got pregnant during that time. We we're starting to, purchase a house, do all the rigmarole. It's the second time I've used that word. I apologize in this talk.
It's a good word. Catch all. I believe it.
It's a catch-all. And it takes a lot of energy to do all those things. And so I don't want to come and talk about like, hey, I just got busy and that's when I stopped doing this stuff. That the actual answer is I actively went silent. I actively said to myself, like, hey, let's take a step. Let's learn as much as possible. And when you learn, you learn not to be the loudest person in the room. You don't need to communicate your achievements to other people to prove that you're doing what you need to do. It's sort of like I made the shift from fooling someone to give me a job to I'm going to get the job because I do this. And so that gave me confidence. It gave me a tremendous amount of no fear attitude going into interviews, going into social settings, going into technical reviews. So I want to. I read a quote the other day. It says, "Advice is like a pot of chili. You try it. You should try a little of it before you should give it out to people." And so I think that's very aptly put. Is this journey that I want to talk about today is a advice that I have lived for a little bit now about going silent and what that means for you and how that's kind of the scariest thing you can embark on.
Yeah.
But it's also the most freeing. So I want to do it with a tinge of developer perspective in there. But there will be mostly just a personal journey of what that means. So.
Yeah. Let's get right into that actually, because and that's something I personally connect with as well. Like I think you transitioned into more of the developer world sooner than I did, and I was actually concerned because I wasn't sure if this was going to be right for you. I actually simply because it's like, look at this amazing skill set, this incredible personality, right? Yeah. At the same time, I think as the days went on, for me, I was actually hitting that wall too, and I couldn't quite figure it out, but I wanted to stop doing that work, and I understand the interest in just really everything was private for me. I shared things to every single account I had. Then suddenly I started to wonder if this was all okay. I don't know if those sentiments resonate with you, but that's something I don't like to disclose, especially since I'm in a community management role. But it's honest in that like there's something very different about the way I approach it now than I did back when we were all kind of in the wild west of it, right?
Yeah, I like that. I like that mentality. So you knew that there was something different, about you.
I would go to like DevRel conferences, and I mean, we would go to things all the time, right? Where we would just try to find like-minded people. And the theme that kept coming up all the time with them was like, I'm getting burnt out. My mind is like all over the place, right? Like, and look, it's you're maximizing both of your brains when you're doing this kind of work, right? You're doing like your left braining when you're just sitting there and coding and trying to be introverted and not be disturbed, and then your right braining when you're just going out, being creative and trying to engage with people. I, like you, like I came from much more of a like public speaking and marketing and like social interactive vibe, and coding to this day still is very alien to me. Despite actually, I would say my best days of coding was when you were around, motivating like everybody, but especially motivating me to like just try the one thing. And like being super supportive. Yet ironically, I didn't know that this was all once upon a time alien to you, right? But yeah, I would say for me, it was very much like, this is going to be amazing to admit, but I'm going to do it. I started to not sure who I was and where I stopped and my company began. Like,
oh wow!
Like you start like that kind of role of being an agent or a publicist.
For sure.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
You have to put so much into it, and then and like everyone was preaching work-life balance, and people were preaching you've got to know when to shut off and go home. And for me, we were doing events at night, and it was like, or I was coming in at 1 because there was nothing going on for me the day, but I would stay till like 10 or 11. Right. It was a weird like orientation, and it made a lot of different impacts. But at the same time, I don't look back and regret it. I just kind of think, well, that's what I wanted to do as well. Like that was what the role demanded. Yeah.
Our occupation as a sales representative that is technically skewed, or a community leader, or a technical evangelist, whatever you want to call it, is a merge between two separate regions of work.
Mhm.
Someone that deep dives into problems and fix things technologically, and someone that sells things, and someone that's pleasant to work with. These skill sets don't always merge together, and seldomly do you find people that can toe that line. I'm sure you can count. Just you have way more touches into the community now, but you could probably count on a handful how many developer evangelists have stuck with the job for more than a decade and also can be a leader, like, because the leader is also another separate job to encompass into it. It's a very challenging thing. So if I can,
I honestly can't think of maybe 2 or 3. And they're very deliberate in saying, I don't actually do code, or I don't actually do that anymore, right? I am just, it comes off as a role that's supposed to be multifaceted, but really, and they said I had to do it for my own mental wellness and my own stability, just to not maximize. And then you end up finding people who are like, I think it's the greatest thing if you're like the community type working alongside the technical person and finding a way to like work together. That division of labor is far more efficacious than expecting one person to do everything and do it really well,
Yeah, you can count on you and I know so many times that we had so many things on our plate, and immediately when we pass it off to someone and be like, can you do this, we would have to grab it back and do it, because it was done. It's not a control thing. It was just more about like, can you take this on? It takes a lot of skill sets to bring this together, but can you do it? And it didn't, and you have to come back in the fold and help. So.
And I mean, to be fair to anybody that experienced that, for me, there were a few. I experienced that too when I was really trying to stretch my legs technically, or even from a presentation side, because there's usually someone in the room that is really specialized in that. And I think that's I would say there's one lesson I learned is just like trust somebody that clearly is better than you at this thing and support that person, right? And I guess I don't know what it was like for you, but like there was a mission for me to learn to do that more, to learn to delegate and lead. But it is a lot to ask from anybody to be willing to do all the things, So we could go on and on, I'm sure. But I think it would be good and important for anybody that's watching and listening, to get to where you think the tokens of wisdom are in all of these experiences, or regrets if you have any. But mostly, where you are now certainly has been informed by where you were. Let's make those connections.
Yeah, sure. Now I am a senior developer at Deloitte Technologies. And what I do for a day-to-day is I work with some amazingly smart people to help companies and businesses migrate their old platforms, whether it be in COBOL, natural assembler, written in the 70s and before, and migrate them to Java Angular applications. And so that one-to-one refactoring takes place in an automatic sense, but there needs to be governance and testing split in between and a communication with the client. So I work client-based, so I rotate in and out of projects anywhere between 6 months all the way to 24 months. So these engagements can be really long, really short, but my specialty is working with the client, getting them an MVP that works, and then working with them to integrate their testing suites. So working with developers alongside clients. So sometimes when we go into engagements, they have developers that are outsourced individuals, as well as the client who actually pays for our services, but are a customer of the developer. So the relationship is a little different, but actually going and sitting, with the client and helping them learn what it's like to troubleshoot a Angular application when they've only been troubleshooting mainframe batch processes for the last, 10 years of their career. That has been a challenge, and I've really succeeded at it because I am a nice guy, and I'm a patient guy, and I'm a dad. And so I like to talk to people that are going through this huge upheaval at work. Generally, when we come in, we're trying to fix code and make it faster, make it better, but we're also changing everything. And that scares a lot of people. Sure. And that scares a lot of old timers because they want to continue to contribute the way that they have. And what we're doing is taking away the tools that they do that with. And so what makes me good at my job is to sit down with someone, give them the tools that they need, and to say it's going to be okay. Like there's a process in play for doing all the testing that we have, and it makes them very comfortable after meeting with me and my team to know, hey, we're making the right decision. we're putting our technology first, and we can own it going forward. So
you're not the type that takes a challenge lightly. Like, you're going to push through it, but do it with the biggest, like, most adorable smile. And I'm sure it works out really well.
yeah.
So I have actually lost track of time. I think we're probably longer than normal, and I don't care. This talk needed to be fleshed out. But I want to give you one last opportunity to do a shameless plug if you're feeling it, especially on any things. I mean, you've talked a lot about the kind of work you're doing at Deloitte. If you got any other projects you got going on as well, the floor is yours. So go for it, Cam.
No shameless plugs today. I am just regular dude. What I will do is I'll tie up the go silent component to my talk, and I'll talk a little bit about that for about 3 to 5 minutes, where I'm going to touch on what it's like transitioning from Galvanize into where I am now.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Maybe a few less minutes, but do what you're comfortable. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, going silent and breaking away from a community like this is a conscientious decision. Whether I'm going to school part-time at night, whether I'm getting certifications, whether I'm working, whether I'm getting married, whether I'm having 2 kids, you always are busy with a lot of things, and you can burn yourself out really easy. So what I want to leave you with is to go silent every once in a while. The act of just disconnecting, not just from work, but from commitments that you've made that maybe overload you, that are not necessarily getting to you what you want. And even sometimes the hardest case, leaving a commitment that does get you happiness and what you want, but helping you in the way that it gives you more time to explore yourself, your own feelings, and your own contributions that you want to do for going forward.
I think that's absolutely lovely. And I mean, I don't want to take up too much time, but I have so many more things to say on a personal level that relate to that. And I think that's wonderfully healthy and challenging, but also necessary. And so I think that's a great place to end it, if any. Cam, absolutely want to thank you so much for the time you've dedicated to this. And I want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this as well. We can check out more of our content on YouTube, as well as on our Podbean and pretty much every major podcasting channel. And lastly, if you want to check out more about Educative, look us up at educative.io. So for all of us here at Educative, thank you so much and happy learning. Bye now. Hope you enjoyed that. This episode is available on YouTube and also on many podcast platforms. If you'd like to be part of Educative sessions, the form is open now to apply. You can also email me at lee@educative.io. Lastly, don't forget to like and comment this video, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more content. Thank you so much for watching, and happy learning.